Johnny Toe is at it again with 2004's Throwdown. So this is a movie I was super excited to rewatch. That yes is a movie I have watched before, and I absolutely loved it the first time I watched it. And I had a chance this last weekend, the weekend before, to rewatch the 2004 film Throwdown by Johnny Toe as part of my Johnny Toe rewatch marathon. So I have been watching a lot of his catalog that I watched again the first time back in college and rewatching it now, almost 20 plus years later. This is 2026, 2004. Yeah, 22 years later for Throwdown. But I've recently rewatched a lot of his other films. So this film had special meaning because it is not necessarily, maybe on the surface, the film that you closely associate with Johnny Toe, which is the crime thrillers with the master of crime with police and gangsters, triad members shooting it out like Breaking News, PTU, The Mission, these classics, Exiled, Election. Yeah, there's so many great gangster movies, but I also really love movies like Throwdown or the collaborations with Wakafi the Hermit when he does like Fat Choice Spirit or Running on Karma. I love this breakout of his genre where, yes, in this film for sure, you get to see Johnny Toe really showing a love for the art and craft of cinema and always Johnny Toe's love of Hong Kong. And that was absolutely on display here in Throwdown. So what's the film about? It's sort of about a judo champion who is down his luck in his rise back to greatness, but that's maybe really, of course, oversimplifying things. And that's what's so great about this film. I think it has a lot of different meanings. Well, at its core, it's about Louis Koo's character, Setoto Bo, who is this down on his luck former judo champion. And it's also about Aaron Kwok's character, who is this up and coming judo martial artist who is just itching to prove himself. But then it's also about Cherry Ing's Mona character, who is also about chasing her dreams. And I think those three core concepts are the crux of the film, and they're explained that way through three characters, but it's also all three characters in like sort of show each of those qualities themselves. So Aaron Kwok's character is this upstart trying to prove himself, this new judo fighter. And that's maybe Louis Koo's character in the past where he was maybe that way before, but we're not shown that, which is interesting because we don't really are ever shown what happened to Louis Koo's character and why is he on this down his luck former champion. It's not a redemption arc, but it is a redemption arc. And that is one of the themes of the movie is getting back up when you're thrown down. So when you've been thrown down. So it is a love of judo where judo is getting back up after being thrown. And that is what Louis Koo's character has done. I loved his performance here because Koo is in a frequent collaborator with Johnny Toe in his more maybe serious of nature films. Not that this one wasn't serious, but I love that he got to play this character who at the beginning is just stumbling around drunk, but by the end has grown so much as a character. He's rediscovered his support system of his two other companions of this trio of characters. I love the dynamic they have by the end of the film where they all sort of reach this conclusion, understanding between each other. And then you mix in Mona's character. We have this female dynamic where she is this aspiring actress and she's been also down her luck as like all the other characters in this film. And she keeps getting back up even though she's rejected time and time again. She's trying to make it as a singer, going from country to country. And even by the end, she's shown the resilience of just to keep on going. She's not going to let one setback keep her down. She's going to keep getting back up. It was just a really great film. The characters, I love the writing. They all felt so real and they had so much character growth throughout the film. And this was also a film that was, as I mentioned, a love letter to Hong Kong, which I think that you could say that maybe about every single Johnny Toe film. I love his cinematography, and the cinematography here was absolutely gorgeous. Again, the alleyways, the signature Johnny Toe like flavor of this Hong Kong at night. It just felt so real and vivid. I loved all the cinematography angles of the fights, of the battles, I want to say, but because it's like a action movie. But yes, when they're in the different scenes, it was just really great framing. Of course, you have to talk about the balloon scene where all three characters are together. I love the way the camera just followed the characters and showed this whimsical scene, and I'm going to use that to segue to the sound design, because that scene is a scene where they're just having this conversation and they're trying to get this balloon down, but through their actions of cinema. And throughout this movie, I really noticed the sound. So I thought the sound design of this film as a whole was amazing. I don't really pick up on the sound usually for other Johnny To films I'd recently watched, like Exiled and all these other Johnny To action movies, maybe because of the genre, but or even his non-action ones like Fat Choy Spirit, which I watched in Running on Karma right before this, that I didn't really have that impact of the sound, but I felt the sound made such a large impact on me in this film. It just perfectly fit every scene, and it really elevated the scenes as the sound changed and flowed in and out. I thought it was a really rich character in the film itself. And just to talk about another Johnny To film, I thought I saw this idea here also later in his later film after this, 2008's Sparrow, about the swindlers and pickpockets. I also love the music in that, and I thought it was maybe something he learned here in Throwdown, and he picked up that thread later in Sparrow to have amazing sound design as well. But yeah, really great elements of cinema and cinematography and writing, directing. This movie, I thought, had it all. There's probably some flaws if you nitpick some of the characters, like maybe Mona's character. She goes on, doesn't really get a resolution. She sort of leaves early, but we see her just as maybe showcasing that idea of resilience and never stopping. The cinematography, you have so many amazing scenes, not just the angles of Hong Kong, but you have like the scenes where the money is flying and you have the heroes and the villains sort of both chasing after the dollars, floating around. You have these angles showcasing Hong Kong in the alleyways. It was just gorgeously shot. I have nothing but praise to say. So you haven't seen 2004's Throwdown, it is also, as Johnny To says himself at the end, a love letter to Akira Kurosawa. So this is a film for, I think, film watchers. It's definitely speaking to film fanatics, even though it does have just a sports film at its core, because it's about judo, but I think it's about so much more. A love letter to cinema. It's a love letter to Akira Kurosawa and filmmaking as a genre. As To says, to the greatest filmmaker, Akira Kurosawa, has these echoes of judo and learning to love the sport for what it is, which is a classic trope, I think, of most sports movies. It's not about the journey, it's about the destination. It's about enjoying judo and the characters, and this is classic To. So if you're looking for a Johnny To film that is something different than his crime action thrillers, I think you should check out Throwdown for a different flavor of Johnny To's filmmaking prowess and why he is, in my opinion, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. So that's my thoughts and a mini review of Johnny To's Throwdown 2004, the 20th anniversary plus review. So let me know below what your favorite Johnny To film is and what other film that I should rewatch, even though I've rewatched a large portion of his catalog lately. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.